Hey everybody, just picking up the pieces a day after the Fort Hood shooting tragedy in Fort Hood, Texas. Um, I really don't, I do know what to say. I'm going to go backward. First of all, I couldn't believe what was happening as it was unfolding before me. It went, but about, 11:30 out here, it said that at 1:30 shots rang out at Fort Hood. And I was going half paying attention, and I turned around and I thought, wait a minute, multiple shots. And then it got worse. It escalated, and suddenly there were multiple gunmen. No one seemed to know exactly what was going on. 7 were killed, 12 were injured, then the 7 turned to 11, the 11 turned to 12, the 12 to 13, and the 12 turned to 20, and the 20 turned to 31 injured. And we had this situation where we had one gunman that was supposedly killed, another one that was on the loose, and the third one, no one knew where the third one was, right? Then, now we find out that there's the one person, Mr. Hassan, Officer Hassan, and that he was an Army psychiatrist responsible for, by my measure from just reading about this and writing the blog posts, I have one that's coming up, 750 soldiers. And what he does is he helps soldiers transition from being in the war to go into, quote, normal society, unquote. I say, quote, normal because there was nothing normal about what happened at that base yesterday. So, what do we make of all this? Well, the first thing to me is that Officer Hassan, and he is a military officer, he's been in the Army since, after high school? And, look, he's a little Sarazi. To try to paint him as anything other, always has been. He's Muslim. So what? Okay, I'm going to get to that in a second. Back to this point, all right? The problem is that he was unloaded with all of the pains and the fears and the issues that these soldiers had, and this guy had no outlet. No wife, no girlfriend, I guess no sexual outlet, because of that. And I'm not being funny when I say this. He had nobody to go back to be his rock. And then he was apparently being harassed after 9/11 repeatedly, and this got to him, and he got to a point where he didn't support what his own government was involved in to a degree. To a point where he was saying, saying Ali Akbar, God is great, to me is meaningless. God is great, fine. But, saying that and saying, oh, that's the thing that a Muslim does, yada, yada, that's what this Cliff Van Zandt guy did, that former FBI profiler that MSNBC was stupid enough to have on their telecast. I'll get to him in a second. At any rate, that's not the issue. The bottom line is that this is a man who was in a place where he felt surrounded. He felt that people were picking on him, and he was at the same time being the repository for all of the stuff that soldiers were going through, and he'd had no one to go home to, and again, no girlfriend. He just snapped, okay? Just plain snapped. I mean, he didn't have a screw buddy for that matter. He just plain snapped, okay? So my point is that, and this is really serious, because you're probably laughing at this point, but, if you're going to put a person in a position where they're taking on all that psychological stuff, the government should make absolutely certain a person like that is taken care of and has a place to come to and has outlets. They didn't do that. They just sort of put him there, so this is your job and that's it. Can't do that. Can't do that. And it took this tragedy, I would hope, for the government to see that. Now, back to this idiot Van Zandt guy. This guy gets on this morning. I was going to turn the camera this way to, this is MSNBC over here, whatever. But the whole point is that this guy gets up, and he, instead of talking about what's going through psychologically with Hassan, goes off on this rant about, well, he wasn't a Muslim, and he did this, and he shot his own fellow, he shot his soldiers, and he should know, and yada yada. Well, so what? I could get on television and say that. I've got on television and said things that made more sense, okay? My point is that this guy was just stoking the fires of Muslim hate out there. That's ridiculous. If I were the producer of that show on MSNBC, I'd have yanked his mic. I said, get off of here. You're supposed to be the analyst. You're not supposed to be, the rabble-rouser trying to stir up hate. Anyway, this is obviously something that's not going to fade away quickly, and nor should it. This is a terrible tragedy, and I have my sympathies for those families and friends of those persons killed and wounded who were affected, and all those who were even indirectly affected.